Hello everybody, welcome to this video where we're going to be discovering two unique operating systems that I think people should actually start using because they are actually really good and they are fairly usable and they have a lot of apps even though you have never heard of them most likely unless you're into technology and operating systems, you probably never heard of these operating systems before because they are mostly used in backends, or you might have even been using it. For example, FreeBSD, which is an operating system that we will be looking at today, is used on the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is based on FreeBSD, and you can look it up. And we are not going to be taking a look at any Linux distributions. We're going to be taking a look at Haiku OS and FreeBSD. The only reason we have Linux here is because I wanted to use the grub bootloader so that I can dual boot them. So now let's restart our computer and exit from Ubuntu because we're not going to be using it, and let's get into grub. And this is actually a really convoluted solution because the version of grub that I have here does not support neither of the operating systems on the system. So I had to use the command line. Now we're gonna press escape once we get to the bootloader, and now we are at grub. So the specs of this computer is an Intel Centrino Duo clocked at 1.6 gigahertz, 1 gigabyte of RAM, and 120 gigabytes at 5400 RPM. So to get to the command line, we're going to press C. Now we're going to have to specify where we want to boot from. This computer has three partitions. The first partition is Haiku OS, the second partition is Linux, and the third partition is FreeBSD. So we're going to type in root is equal to HD0, which is the hard drive, and then partition 0, which is the first partition. Then we're going to type chain loader plus 1. I'm struggling with typing because keyboard compatibility is not great, and then I'm just going to type boot. This should start the Haiku OS bootloader, and then we're just going to continue booting. So the computer this is running on is an Inspiron 1520, as you might have seen from the BIOS screen. Now this won't be any in-depth video on both operating systems. I'll just be showing you the basic functionalities and how each operating system works compared to Windows and other operating systems you might be familiar with. Both of these operating systems are Unix-like, which means they are not exactly Unix, but they act and function like Unix operating systems. And okay, the resolution is not correct. Let's fix that. Get the preferences menu and screen. There. This is the correct resolution. No, this should be this. Yeah, okay. Let's keep our changes. Okay, so this is Haiku OS. Now the reason we had that problem is because it's thinking I'm using the laptop screen. Okay, so this is the Haiku OS. This is your desktop, and this is your what on Windows you'd call that your start menu, and on Mac OS this is equivalent to the Apple logo at the corner. So you have everything right here, and it took me a while to figure out where the start menu is, which is this one, and this is your system tray, and this is just the running applications. Right here is all the default icons. This is the documentation, the home folder. This is a tour. This is your hard drive. Mounted drives show up here. And this is the user guide, which is like the documentation. This is your trash can. So let's connect to the internet. And this is your, I think it should auto connect because my configuration is there. This is your task manager. This is equivalent to the task manager, as I said. You have all your apps. Okay, it failed to connect. The drivers on this is a bit quirky. So this is all the applications you have. I installed LibreOffice, which is like Microsoft Office for these operating systems, and it works quite well. The only reason this operating system is slow on this is because I'm running this off a hard drive. Even then, it runs insanely well from a hard drive. And it works quite well. It doesn't even need that much resources. So this is LibreOffice, this is right. And as you can see, you have this like blank area right here. That's normal. That's where your start menu, I mean taskbar, would have been. Like all your apps would show up right around here. And you can even have widgets down here. So if we go to desktop applets, for example, get the workspaces thing. That's like your window manager. You can have multiple desktops, so you can have that here. It doesn't even have to be like over the top. You also have your launch box, which allows you to have quick launch right here. Even though you have like, this doesn't have a quick launch actually, so this is your quick launch. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The rest of it you have to go exploring by yourself, and they have some demos to show the capabilities of this on all hardware. And you have the Haiku depot where you can install apps. This is like the app manager, but I don't think I'm connected to the internet to actually show you anything, but there are a lot of apps. Oh, actually I'm connected to the internet, so yeah. See, as you can see, if you use Arduino, you have the Arduino IDE. You have quite a lot of stuff. You even have Audacity, which makes sense since it's open source. And then you have the terminal. You can install apps through the terminal as well. If we go to the terminal, I can just think it's pkg install. Okay, so it's pkg, yeah, it's pkg man install, and then whatever you want to install. So if I wanted to install Audacity, oh, and I'm not connected to the internet. But yeah, that's that. And close that, and we can restart the system to show you FreeBSD. So just press escape to get into grub, press C, and now this time we want to get into partition 3. So write root is equal to hd0 hd0. The keyboard is broken. 2 chain. By the way, if you are wondering what this does, it basically just loads the kernel for you from whatever partition you've selected. This doesn't actually need any configuration for grub. It just works as long as those partitions have an operating system. So as long as you know which partition has which operating system, you can easily just boot from the command line. Now we're booting to FreeBSD. Now FreeBSD is not for everyone. unless you know what you are doing and are familiar with command lines, I do not recommend getting FreeBSD right now, because FreeBSD is trying to be the most compatible operating system, which it is. But when you get FreeBSD, you don't get your graphics drivers. I had to install mine. You don't get a GUI by default. I had to install GUI, and even then, I have to run a command to activate the graphical user interface each time. Even now, you can see I'm getting prompted with a command line login, which is like the Linux server login page. So I'm gonna log in, and then I'm gonna type /user/local/bin/start xfce4. I think, yeah, that's the correct command. And now it will load xfce4, which is a really great command line interface. And if you use Linux, you'd know that this is also available on Linux, which almost every desktop environment that's available on Linux is installable here. For example, xfce4, as we are going to see now, GNOME, KDE, all of those are available for FreeBSD. I just chose xfce4 because I'm most familiar with that. And you can install most Linux applications. For example, Firefox, Thunderbird, NeoFetch. NeoFetch is cross-compatible either way. Okay, so it looks like the graphics is not correct as well, so settings, display. Select this. Okay, so we're gonna keep this configuration. Now you get a bunch of pre-installed applications with XFCE, like JTK demo, then these applications for development. You get these. Almost everything here came pre-installed with XFCE, except for the web browser, these three apps that I installed myself to showcase XFCE to you. And it looks like the CMOS battery is dead on this. I should replace that because it's telling me the date is 2007, and I'm certain it's from the BIOS because it's been telling me that earlier. I'm going to change the date. Probably from here. Apparently not, okay. Whatever, let's just launch Google Chrome or Firefox. So what I like about these open source operating systems like Linux and FreeBSD is that you don't get Google Chrome, you get Chromium, which is arguably better because it's open source and it's less bloated typically. And now I'm gonna have to figure out how to change the time. I guess I could use terminal, there's no harm in that. Yeah, that's Firefox. I think it's not time, date. Yeah, okay. So date is July 2nd. I don't even know how to format this. I think. Okay, I see. So it's I. .207 .207 24 00 00 and like 00 seconds because it's 12 a.m. Okay, so this is not the Linux format. Yeah, you can tell I'm not quite familiar with this because I did not use these in depth. I just used the surface level and saw how easy it is for the average user to use. It could be okay, actually I could have used this. Okay. Yeah, I don't think you can just modify the dates like that. Let's just open Firefox, even though it's not gonna work. Okay, just to test .com. I'm in trouble. I don't think I even installed the packages required for a network, because I'm pretty sure you have to install that, and I did not. So yeah, I cannot show it internet capabilities, even though this is like the latest version of Firefox. Again, it's an operating system that we should start using, not the best to use right now. Yeah. If you're looking for alternatives for Windows, considering what's going on, I'd suggest Haiku OS for beginners and FreeBSD for like advanced users, because yeah, there is a lot of packages to install. This is like using not Windows, this is like using Linux if it had nothing installed. I had to install this desktop environment and all that. So yeah, you have to kind of understand how to use it, and I'm really no expert at using FreeBSD. It's really new to me, but if you enjoy these, I really recommend FreeBSD. And if you're new and trying to look for alternatives, I'd highly recommend Haiku OS, or even wait, let me start this up. Even Linux Mint. Linux Mint is really user-friendly. I do not have a copy of it on this system, but there are a lot of videos that showcase them. Okay. I guess it's just refusing to install. This is just not installing to connect to the internet, even though you can see it's like detecting my network drivers. But again, this computer is really old. It's from 2006, and it's a really random one as well. It's not one of the popular computers from 2006. It's an Inspiron 1520. And I assume not many people have ever heard of this computer, which makes sense. I could not even find the drivers for this to run Windows XP on it. Like the audio drivers, the network drivers, they do not exist. The audio drivers do exist. Actually, the network drivers The Ethernet drivers exist, but the Wi-Fi drivers do not work on this for some reason. I think it's just some obscure Wi-Fi driver, and I should replace it maybe to get better compatibility. Yeah, and I forgot to show the package manager for this. Is just pkg. If you just install the FreeBSD, just run pkg so that it can install the package manager for you. /user /bin/start xce4, and yeah, that's how you get the package manager. If you're confused, it auto installs even if you just give it arguments, and that's normal. It doesn't come with anything except for the core drivers, like the keyboard drivers. It doesn't even come with graphics drivers. It comes installed with the network drivers, obviously. It's just the important ones. The graphic drivers, you have to install them. The audio drivers, I think, actually come with this. For some reason, you get audio drivers but no graphics drivers. And I forgot to change the date. Which is fine, I guess. If you know what you're doing, this is like a great operating system for you. It's highly customizable. It's just not that user-friendly to people. So Haiku OS is like better for new users, so that they can get familiar with these operating systems. Or if you want, you can get Linux Mint, but I think that's not overrated, but it's an overused operating system. And there are much more cool operating systems like Haiku OS. I actually like Haiku OS quite a lot. It's just a shame that it's not stable enough. It's stable enough for daily use. It's still kind of buggy. Like when I was setting up this triple boot, there was once that I got a fluke 3 times in a row. And I've been using this computer for a week. After that fluke, nothing else happened. It's slightly buggy. So my suggestion is, if you want to try Haiku OS, it's really user-friendly. Like, you should 100% try it. If you want to try FreeBSD, unless you know what you're doing, unless you know how to operate a command line, don't try it. Unless you know how to operate a command line, don't try it. Otherwise, you're free to try it out. Or if you can find a tutorial and you're not familiar, but you're comfortable with following a tutorial to install a command line, then you're good to go. But it's really no different to a normal Linux distro, except for the fact that this is more customizable. It's like creating your own distro in a way, where you choose which software you want on this and which ones you don't, because it is quite literally just a clean slate of a kernel, network drivers, and audio drivers. That's it. And the command line interface, obviously. So yeah, I really implore you guys to just discover other operating systems, because there are actually quite a few cool operating systems that not many people talk about. Obviously, we all know, not all of us, but a lot of us know about Temple OS, which is a really great operating system made entirely from scratch by one guy, but it's not really practical. But there are other operating systems like Haiku, which is a very practical operating system. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's not like my other videos, but it was really something to show you guys the tip of the iceberg of what operating systems there are out there for you guys to try out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.